Welcome to the In-Flight podcast, brought to you by the Canadian Owners and Pilots Association, the podcast for all things general aviation in Canada. Hello and welcome to the COPA In-Flight podcast. I'm here with Sophia Wells of Aviation. You are the Director of Mentorship and Volunteers. We are at ATAC 2025. Great to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
First question that we ask everyone. How did you get into aviation? What was the spark? Was it a family thing? Was it something out of the blue?
Yeah, I always feel a little bit cheesy telling my story. I got really lucky in a sense. I'm from the Crow's Nest Pass, southern Alberta, so a small town, not an aviation hub by any means. But a gentleman had bought a summer home, and turned out that person was a fighter pilot out of Cold Lake. So he encouraged me to join the Air Cadet program, which I didn't really want to do at first. Loved the program, and it did so much for me, but at first I was very hesitant. But he brought a jet to Lethbridge, which was the closest city, and so the day, it's like I said, it's a little cheesy, but I still remember when he took off after showing us the airplane, and I remember what the sky looked like. I remember the feeling of the air on my face. I remember that, oh my God, this is it. And so I've wanted to fly airplanes since I was 12.
And then you've had a pretty interesting resume since then. Can you tell us a bit about the places you've worked?
Yeah, it's been a really cool journey, and I'm really grateful that I've got the foundation that I have and the support of the community, because I think that's really helped me drive and find my own spot. So I started off, I moved to Calgary after trying to get into the military. Didn't get into the military after trying, and was heartbroken because, of course, being an air cadet and going through the program and knowing about RMC, and I wasn't prepared for an aptitude test. I didn't know what that was at the time, so that kind of shattered me a little bit with test anxiety as a 17-year-old kid. But then I started applying other schools, eventually got into Mount Royal just for general studies, trying to get out of a small town thinking, okay, I'll get a degree, and then I'll go back to the military, and maybe they'll take me then. Completely by accident, fell upon the Mount Royal Aviation program. Literally took a detour avoiding people, and saw this flight simulator and went, ooh, why is this here? Learned about the program, got accepted, started my PPL pretty much the next week. And so did the Mount Royal program. It was one of the first years they were doing the Air Canada connection pathways, and I was one of the only students of my very small class that had zero interest in applying. Okay. So I had a lot of feedback from that of what are you doing? Airlines wasn't ever something I was super interested in. So wanted to do my instructor rating, became a flight instructor, ended up moving to Edmonton, and worked at the Edmonton Flying Club for a long time, eventually became their chief pilot in 2012. And then a year later, even while I was working there, got approached by little companies in and around Edmonton. It was called Infinite Air. Started with them on a King Air for a day, and then the company went under. So that was fun. But through those connections, then started flying a Navajo, and now a little bit on a Citation with that same kind of family-run business, which has been really cool. And then Elevate's a whole other spot up there of just really wanting to volunteer and looking for something, and I think Kendra and Laura sort of found me, and I got really lucky that they've been great to work with, and that now Elevate has turned into what it is now.
So speaking about Elevate, an excellent organisation, can you tell us a little bit about the organisation, what it does, and your role there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the Director of Mentorship and Volunteers, and it's very much what it sounds like. We are very much a volunteer-run organization, and a huge part of it. That's how we started off, completely volunteer-run for years and years. And we operate based on a 4-pillar scope. So our first pillar being that mentorship and leadership enhancement, right? Second one being community engagement and recognition, education and skills development, and industry culture development. So those 4 kind of pillars encompass all of the programs that we do. I'm, of course, more in the mentorship aspect of it, the leadership and volunteerism. And that part really, it's great. We have wings all across the country with volunteers doing amazing things, sharing about aviation. We have a kindergarten to a career approach where we have volunteers that will go into high schools and elementary schools even, talking to kids, and we have programs developed to talk to those age groups accordingly, which is amazing. And seeing those volunteers come up with other ideas of how we get involved in aviation is amazing. And of course, the mentorship program, now that we've launched Echo, our new mentorship and professional development app, it's a whole new excitement.
Well, leading on to that, we often talk on this podcast of what sort of recommendations or steps that people can take getting into aviation, getting into the big scary world that it is in the industry that we have, and that leads us onto ECHO. Can you speak a little bit about mentorship, the work that you do within mentorship, and then this platform you've created, ECHO, and how that could help?
Yeah, I think that's such a good question of what is mentorship. And it's often people aren't sure or ask me like, well, I'm not qualified to be a mentor. I'm just a commercial pilot. And I'm like, did you hear yourself right now? Like, most people, mentorship in a very simple way is listening to someone else. Right, being there, listening to someone talk to you about what they're nervous about, what they're unsure of, asking some questions, and you sharing what you've learned in just giving that information. It's not about telling someone what to do. It's not about telling someone this is the path you have to take. It's literally about listening, offering what you know, and sharing your experience, and being there for them if something goes well and if something doesn't go well. And just that supportive of person. You know, most of us, if you think of, we all have mentors in our life. Even our parents have acted as mentors, our teachers, our coaches, and there's different levels of it, of course, but a mentor in this capacity is really somebody that knows what you're going through. So, you know, I think of a private pilot. I just finished my PPL. Can I mentor? Absolutely. Because there's somebody out there that's just starting and feels completely overwhelmed, probably like you did when you first started. So it's that shared experience and that willingness to be vulnerable about, yeah, that was hard for me too, right? And this is how I got through it.
So just, I mean, we mentioned the perspective of someone that's looking for a mentor that's getting into aviation. Do you have any advice for those, you kind of touched on it briefly, those people in industry that have been through the process, they've had those feelings starting out, and now they're nice and comfortable in what they do, they're able to speak upon the work that they do, and they are thinking of becoming a mentor? What advice would you give to those sort of people?
Sign up to ECHO right now.
Sign up to ECHO.
I would say do it. Mentoring is such a great way to give back, and so many of us got so much from people along the way, or maybe we didn't, right? Either way is a good reason to try and mentor, in my personal opinion, and we really are open to everybody and anyone that is interested in sharing and mentoring. So I think, you know, our aviation industry and aerospace is such a cool one, but there's so much people don't know. Even myself, I learn about new jobs in this industry all the time, or your change of perspective. You know, I was here at ATAC, I was chatting with somebody that is in communications, but within aviation. And they were like, I love communications, but I love airplanes. Found a way to smush it together. And I said, you need to mentor, because there's other people out there that are similar and just think, oh, there's no way I can do that, or how do I even start? And that's why mentors are so important, is showcasing that and letting people know that, you know, there are other people out there, and how do I do it? And you can ask them questions directly through the app, which is really special, because then you can, you know, talk to them directly. You can video message with them if you want, you can phone call, or just text, which a lot of people I think are more comfortable with nowadays, especially when you're a little nervous about asking some questions.
Just getting back to ECHO, because I think it's an excellent platform that you created, because again, it's quite difficult getting in from the ground up. It's difficult to walk into an airfield or a flying club and start that conversation knowing absolutely no one there. But ECHO has a quite novel way of connecting you and being able to filter through finding that perfect mentor, doesn't it? Yeah.
So ECHO was created for aviation by aviation professionals, and we've worked tirelessly on this, and I have to give a huge shout out to Ileana, who's our mentorship manager with Elevate, who we could not have done this without. She's been incredible, and we really wanted to make it something that was easy to use and similar to what a lot of people are doing all the time. So I will be very honest, we looked at dating apps. And so one of the ones particularly that we gravitated to is Bumble. And so with Bumble, it's set up with the woman gets the right to choose, right? So they swipe, and if they match with you, it's a match. Guys can request, but not always a match. Same thing with mentorship on ECHO. As a mentee, you get the right to choose. So if you want a mentor that you found that matches with you based on the algorithm, and you've looked at their profile and you want to get to know this person and ask them your questions, you match with them, you're matched. So you get to have those conversations right away. That being said, we also know that things happen, and that maybe there's not a match or other things, and mentors can set their capacity levels as well. They don't have to accept everyone. It's a 0 to 10 sort of level. So the concept is that it's supposed to be simple and an easy way to connect virtually that could lead into, you know, developing bigger relationships and such through the mentorship journey. But we've really tried to make it simple and just to see it and to be able to connect with a touch of a button.
Oh, that's excellent. I believe it's free for all at the moment.
So yeah, as a mentor, it's you can mentor for free, of course, and then as a mentee, you will always get one free mentor, regardless. That's never going to change with Elevate. We always want to make sure that it's an open aspect. There is, because apps are expensive, so there is a little charge. I think it's like $6 a month, more or less, for like our high-end level of mentees and such. So it goes up a little bit based on what you want to do, but that gives you more than just mentorship. So that could get you up to 10 mentors, but then we also have the professional development side of Echo. So we've got some webinars that are going to be hosted on there. We've got articles and blogs. We're partnered with COPA, so there'll be some great COPA information on there too. And we're looking at other partnerships too. So, here at ATAC, I was chatting with a couple of the different schools of would love to know, what does your school offer? So that then again, it's one place that people trying to get in the industry can look and be like, oh, hey, how do I work at NAV Canada? What are the jobs there? And can learn about it. Hey, I want to work in the military. What are the jobs there? And having that information. So we're working with a lot of different partners because, as mentioned before, Elevate's all about industry. We hear what industry wants, we hear what industry needs, and we really try to provide that and help people see the industry the best that it can.
I think your story and the stories that we've had on this podcast before show how many different pathways there are in aviation. You touched on this a little bit earlier with the communications within aviation. So it's such a wide industry with so many roles available. Yeah. So to be able to give the perspective of, you don't just have to be a pilot, you don't have to be an air traffic controller, you can find your niche within aviation, and I think this quite possibly opens up those niches a little bit easier.
That's the hope, right? We really want to showcase the awesome jobs that are out there, and that, there's also a lot of room for, I think everybody probably listening, or you and I even have looked at our jobs once or been like, I didn't think I was going to be here, right? Like you weren't, when you were 17, you weren't going, I'm going to be this at COPA. I'm going to, they change and they mold. Like I never would have dreamt that I'd be working with a non-for-profit as like a primary position, and I love it. But it wasn't something I ever knew was even an option to me. So that's a big part of what we want to showcase and let people see and snoop around, right? And then be able to talk to those people about, well, what do you like about your job? What don't you like about your job?
Yes.
And see if it's a fit for that person, because it's, like you said, you can't just walk up to the pilot at the gate when you're trying to get on your airplane to go on a trip and ask them all your questions. Versus on Echo, you can, and not just the pilot, but the customer service agent, the ramp agent, the gate agent, the business owner, the airline operators, like the human resources, like all of that. There's so many cool jobs. So we really just want to help people see them. So if you're listening and you're in aviation at all, you should be a mentor and share what you're doing. As well as, again, you can be dual user, which is fun. You can be mentor and mentee, which, funny enough, we've seen so far in the signups that almost everybody is doing that, which just goes to show how aviation is all about, we're a bunch of nerds that never stop learning, right? And always are like, oh, how else can I get better? Which is that's just inspiring.
Oh, for sure. And I think such an important part of this is the transfer of knowledge as well. People that have spent their entire career and they've made the mistakes and they've learned the lessons along the way and can pass those on. I imagine at this point we've got a lot of listeners and watchers that want to find out more. So where can they find out more information or download Echo?
Absolutely. So we are on the Google Play as well as on the Apple Store. We are Echo by Elevate Aviation, just because just Echo is taken. So we're Echo by Elevate Aviation on the App Store. You can also, of course, go to the Elevate Aviation website, so www.elevateaviation.com/Echo, and you'll find us there. We'd love to have you.
Perfect. What's next for Elevate? What's next for Sophia?
That's a great question. There's so much on the go with Elevate. I feel like we're constantly trying to work with our various industry partners. We've got a lot of up and coming training programs through our Learning Center. We just opened up our ACE program in BC with Harbour Air in partnership, which is cool. That's our Aviation Career Exploration Week. I know, so many acronyms, which is exciting. Our national tour with that, formerly known as the Cross Country Tour, which COPA has been a big part of for the years, over the last years, is coming this spring as well. The WCC, which is our Workplace Culture Consulting Program, is doing a lot and working with various organizations to try and really help the culture, but in such a fun way. It's not the standard what you would think of working with that. So there's so many great programs on the horizon, and honestly, like Elevate wants to know how we can work with industry and with anybody in aviation. So we're ready, we're listening, and we're a bunch of doers. So I'm sure there's lots that I'm missing, because every few minutes I feel like there's more to do. So.
Well, it's excellent catching up with you and following Elevate, because, as you say, every week I feel like I get a new notification that you guys are doing something new. It's been excellent working with you guys and partnering over these years, and now being involved with ECHO and the scholarship. So there's a lot of COPA and Elevate things coming, which is very exciting.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Thank you for joining us, Sophia.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for joining us. Find us on our social media and join us for the next episode.